everybody. Welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Zee Garcia.
I'm Joey Evans.
Today we're taking a look at Colorado, which is a call and write. They're calling this one.
What?
It's not a flip and write. It's not a roll and write. You call for a card.
Hello.
And then you write. Okay?
See it?
This one has some dry erase boards. It has obviously a Western theme, and
Yep.
you are trying to make combos, make combinations, make sort of cascading effects happen for you so that you get to mark off a bunch of different places, transfer some points and some goals from your own personal board to a central master board and win the game by doing that. All right, let me go ahead and show you how the game works. Just give you a brief overview of the moving parts in it. We'll come back. We'll tell you what we think of Colorado.
Yep, look at that bull.
Wow. Here's what the game looks like, set up and ready to begin for 3 players. We've got over here the rulebook and some player aids, but they are all in French, so I'll be getting rid of those. I do have a printout of the back of the book here in English, so I'll have that on the table there to help me out, and we are ready to begin just about. Someone's going to be the start player. They get the, I don't know, the bullhorn thing. And then you select one of 2 starting locations on your little map here, which is one of the 2 red flags. There's one here, and there's one across from it here. So everyone would do this. I'm not going to worry about these 2 players' boards, but they would obviously be doing this as well. So I could mark off one of those, and then I go to this central board, and I mark, we will all do this, that we have the first red flag. So we mark it here, and the other 2 players would do that as well. We are each represented by a symbol on our board. I am this lovely, warm, roaring fire. So I'm the top line across all of these sections. I'm the top line there. I have a roaring fire there, so these are my stars, and then same deal. And the other 2 players have their own. All right, so I've started there. That'll be my start player. We have a hand of 3 cards, and we begin with 1 on the table, plus we all have 3 gold nuggets. And we're good to go. What are you trying to do in the game? Well, you're trying to get the most victory points. You'll be getting victory points from marking off things on your board, from making sets, from opening new areas on the map and exploring those locations, and from getting these sheriff stars filled in with victory points. As you complete these sets, so say I get all 4 of my blue flags checked off on my personal map, if I'm the first one to do that, I'm going to get 4 points, and I write that over here. And then I'll cross out that 4 so that nobody else can get that. You can still get points from marking these off. So say if at the end of the game I've got 3 of these marked off, I get 6 points. But if I get to the top first, I get that. Same thing for all of these. And then down here there's a few other areas that if you're the first one to complete, say these 2, if I'm the first one to get both of these, I'll get 9 points. Second player gets 5. Nothing else after that. And same deal over here. Very similar thing over here, okay? So that's what we're doing. At the end of the game, when somebody gets to the 7th star, which is a slightly different color, then that wraps up the game. We're going to add up our victory points for there, which is all of these things. We're going to add up our victory points for your stars, and then we figure out our total, and we see who the winner is, all right? So let me take you through the 3 steps of every single round. I'm the start player. I have this. I'm going to, step 1, call for a card. I select a player at the table, and I ask for a specific card that is a suit and a color. Every card in this game will have a color, i.e. the suit, and a number, which is 1, 2, or 3. That's it. So I'm going to select someone, and I call for that. So I'm going to go over here. I haven't looked at these, actually. So I'm going to go over here and say, I want the purple 1. This player is going to look at their hand, and one of 3 things is going to happen. They have the purple 1. If they do, they give it to me. They don't. They have any purple, so that's step 1. Step 2 is they don't have that card. They don't have the purple 1. But they have any purple or any 1. They have to give me one of those. And it's their choice if they have multiples. So if they had a purple 3 and a blue 1, they can give me either one of those. If they have neither thing, no purples, no 1s, then I just randomly pluck a card from their hand. All right. So this player, obviously, because they do not have a purple 1, have to give me one of these. So they'll give me this card right here. If I'm given a card, I put it in front of me, and I put that on the table in my area right here. If I already owned that card, I instead will discard that, and I get 1 nugget from the supply. But I don't. I don't have this card yet. So I'm going to put that out, and now step 2 is actions. everybody is going to do actions, and everybody gets to select on the new card, which I'll put right there, one of the two actions that that card lets you do. In this case, this one has the map for these regions, and it has the train symbol at the bottom, okay? And again, this is explained right here. So it says the check mark type cards, which are on the blue suit and the yellow suit, are going to let you do one of these two things. You can check one of your regions, or you can check one on the railroad, okay? Everyone will do this on their own. Now, to mark off a region here on my map, it has to be next to something I've already marked off. I'm beginning here on this flag, so my only choice right now is actually this one right here. And so I would do that, or I could do the train at the beginning of the train and make my way across, only going this way or across the bottom. And then at the end, again, it splits. So I'm going to mark this one. This has a symbol, which is that symbol right there, that's called play. And it says I get to play a card from my hand. So I'm going to look at my hand, and I'm going to play a card from it. I'm going to play this card. If I play a card, then I am going to also benefit from one of the two symbols across that card, but only I will do that. It's not the card I called for that everyone benefits from. This is my own thing. And hey, look at that. I get to do it again if I want to. So I'm going to mark off the next one here that I'm connected to. Mark that off. This one is this symbol right here, and that symbol lets me either draw 3 cards, or I can discard 2 cards of the same color to place one. Okay, well, I can't do that. I don't have enough cards for that. So I'm going to draw 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Now that I'm done, I have no more cascading actions. I just wait for my opponents to be done, and we move on to the next round. Well, I need to do one final step, step 3, but that's largely it. So everybody's doing these actions on their own, marking things off, opening up new regions, what have you, okay? Now that I'm done, I check. Is the game over? Does someone get to 7 stars? No? Okay. Do I have any full suits in front of me? A 1, a 2, and a 3 of some color. If I do, which I don't, but if I did, I would discard all 3 of those cards, and I would open up a new region on my map, i.e. mark off a new flag. It has to be next to a region I've already opened. So right now, it could be this region right here in green, mark off that flag. Or I could do this region right here in yellow, mark off that flag. And then I go up here, and I denote that, hey, I've marked off a green flag or a yellow flag, all right? And so that's why you're trying to get the full 1, 2, 3 run of something. Then it goes away, and you open up something new. Once I'm done, the last thing we need to do before we move on to the next player is we need to make sure that we all have at least 3 cards in our hand. This player gave me one, and assuming they did not draw any new ones, they're going to need one. So there we go. And then we go to them. They're going to look at their hand, they're going to look at what they've got, and they call for a card. They'll ask this player over here, hey, do you have a blue 2? Okay, they don't. They have a blue 3, so they have to give them to them. That player gets a blue 3, they go, oh, I already have that card. They throw this away in the discard pile, and they get a gold nugget. And then we all still take one of the actions shown on that, which again happens to be right now, opening up a new region. But let's take a look at some of the other cards, okay? I've got here in my hand some of the other suits and some of the things they do. This card here lets you, well, you saw this already, draw 3 cards or discard 2 that match to play one. So you can do that. And then these cards here let you either take a nugget or you can pay nuggets to play a card. The amount of nuggets you pay is the value on the card. So 1, 2, or 3. All right. And that's what you're doing. So I am collecting those. Anytime on my map that I cross off play a card, I can play a card without paying for it, without paying nuggets or a matching pair. I just play it. If I cross off a nugget, I do one of the 2 nugget actions, take one or pay to play. If I cross off a bandit, which is a little guy with a hat there, then I go here and I cross off the next bandit spot. If I cross off the doors to the saloon, I go here and I cross that. If it's a teepee, then I go and I cross off the center first, which gets me a nugget action. And then after that, any further teepees, I get to go this way or I get to go the other way, marking things off. If I get to the end, I get the better bonus right here. Or if I get to this end, I get this bonus right here. This is better, but the actions are a little weaker is the idea. All right. So that's what's going on there. And this is going to continue. Sometimes you'll be able to chain a few things together, end up ballooning up with a hand of cards. Sometimes you're focusing on opening up new regions and marking them off. Sometimes you're focusing on getting these symbols down here and opening those things up so you can get the big bonuses on the stars. That's largely it. There's also, by the way, like I said, the train down here. And if you get to the end of that, there's 4 points right there that transfer to the main board as well. So nuggets, managing them so you can pay for cards is going to be a big deal. Managing, again, a hand of cards and trying to get those suits, those runs, so you can throw them away and open up new things. That's pretty much it. Get to 7, add all this up, figure out who's got the most points, and that player is going to be the winner of the game. All right, so there you go. That's the game. Let's chat about it. I am a fan of this kind of game of whatever and right, but to be fair, and I think you are too.
I am too, big time.
But to be fair, there are a lot of them.
There's a lot, and yeah, it's exhausting keeping up with it, and you kind of want to think, every time you crack one open, do you feel the same way? You're like, do I need this one?
Yeah, or even more like, what are you doing? Like,
right.
what are you bringing?
What are you doing?
What are you bringing to the table?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
What new is here?
What's different? What's slightly off the beaten path? I don't even need originality necessarily. I just want a new combination of moving parts.
I agree.
You know, there's a lot of these kinds of games, and oftentimes they just feel recycled a little bit. They feel like, oh, here's an idea. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I've seen this idea a bunch of times. It's the same kind of thing, you know?
Right.
This one, I think, feels a little bit different. You have your own board, you're unlocking things, and then the card-driven call and write thing is pretty different. You know, I like the paying to put out more cards in front of you to get more actions to make sets and open new regions.
I like that too.
That's kind of what you're doing. That's sort of the drive behind what's happening in the game. And I think it works pretty well. I like that there is some interaction each round.
Yep.
Where I ask someone for something, they give me something. We all do that thing, you know. But then once you do that, initial like mark off a place or get a gold nugget or what have you, then everybody has sort of like a moment of, and that cascades into this other 2 or 3 or 4 things. So we're like, you know, you kind of put your head down and go, okay, I get to pay 2 nuggets and play this. That lets me draw cards or discard 2 matching cards to play another card. Hey, look at that. I play another card. I get that action. And so that I thought was neat. It gave me a little bit of that like Gangshan clever.
It does.
One thing opens up another thing, which does another thing.
But more visible than Gangshan Clever, just because like there are certain times whenever I'm doing something, then we're like, oh, well, they're still writing. I'm like, how are they cascading that much this early? And you start to reevaluate your strategy as you go, because you're like, okay, I'm not getting that yet.
Yeah.
You know?
That can happen here a little bit where you
Which I like.
You have a turn where you do 2 things, you know.
Right.
Or even just one thing. I'm like, okay, I played a card, I called for a card, I played it, whatever, and it says draw 3 cards or play 1, right? I'm like, okay, cool, I'll draw. Boom, boom, boom. I'm done. Like, that's it.
Right.
And somebody over there might have had a few things happening. I would not say this game has a lot of downtime by any means.
No.
I'm just saying it still has that feeling of, wow, we're kind of like going different paths, you know?
That's the thing. There are so many different paths to victory, and I remember once when I tried to focus too much on the map. I want to move around the map, and I didn't focus on the rest. By the time I look up, I'm like, those are already gone.
Yes,
you know?
yeah.
I'm too far behind to catch up, and then I got to double down on the map. But then I realized at the end, I'm like, I'm not going to get enough points. I like that different, because that makes each play different. You can focus on different areas of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think you need in a roll and write.
I agree. I think the shifting gears a little bit, I think the symbols and what's going on in the game is pretty straightforward.
It's clear.
It has this reminder sheet that I showed you. I printed in English, like I said. You know, the game's in French. And that has pretty much all the symbols you're going to need. There's a couple of them that might trip you up because they mean one of 2 things. Right? And that's a little tricky. Like the little pink card with the down arrow, play a card. That's all that means. But if it's a nugget symbol, that's one of 2 things. That's take a nugget or pay nuggets to play a card. And you need to remember that. There's those three that you need to know don't mean one thing. They mean two things. And you pick one of the two. I think that's going to be a little weird at first. That's going to trip some people up. The fact that there are some things that mean one of two, but the others don't.
I agree. And I think what I like about that, though, is because roll and rides, for me, it's all about the cascading, number one. And number two, the branching. Because you all always start the same way. And then hopefully a good roll and ride towards the end, you're all going to be in completely different places.
Yeah.
And here, using the same cards, even the same symbols, you can use those different ways. And the different ways, like you could draw 3 cards or play a card, and all of a sudden you're in completely different positions.
Yeah.
And I really like that in this game. The branch, and it doesn't overcomplicate it either.
Sure, right.
Which is good. Yeah, so I like it a lot.
I'm glad that they went with dry erase boards. I really like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that works well.
you'd have to do it yourself, which I'm glad you just jumped to the end.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, a whole pad is fine, but a lot of people end up laminating one of those anyway.
Right.
And they use, so this is a good way to do that. It's clean. It looks good. It works well. Symbology, like I said, I think is good. I like the card system. That's the main twist here, ultimately.
Yep.
What do you think about that whole go fish, right? Like we were playing and someone walks by, of course, and hears us play, and it's like, oh, what are you guys playing, Go Fish? Yeah, it has a Go Fish kind of quality to it.
It works more than I thought it would. Number one, I forgot about it the first couple rounds because you're too focused on what you're going to do and not so much on guessing. But then you're like, and you start to put this thought process. It's like, well, I need a blue too. And I realize, well, if you would have had one, you would have played it. But wait a minute, maybe you just got it. So you know what? I'm going to go and ask. A blue two, and you see him go, ugh. And when they really want that card and have to give it to you, it feels good inside.
Right.
It does. So it does add that. I like that, which is unique, I think, to this.
And it's not that punishing to be asked for a card and to have to give it up. All you're giving up is the set collection, i.e. opening a new region on the map. You're still benefiting from the effect on the card.
Right.
When you give it to someone else, I'm still doing one of the two things across the bottom of that card.
Yep.
I just don't have the trio to discard and open up a thing. Bam.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it hinders you a bit, but it's so fun to look around the table and go, you're holding 4 cards, you're holding 9? I'm asking you for a card, you know? And there's that push your luck, that like, oh, you already have this card, so here you go. You have to throw it away and you get a nugget, which again is nice that you're not penalized for having something. You get something out of it. It works well. It's a clean, interesting, interactive little system. It creates interaction and it does so in a smooth way.
And then it's interesting, too, whenever you ask for a card and they don't have that, they have to give you the color or the number.
Right.
So you can kind of get hosed. All of a sudden, you're stuck with a green 2, and you're like, I don't want to play it, but now I've got to put it down.
Sure, it's like, okay, I didn't want that ability, but it's fine. Everything is progress in this game.
Yeah, and I do like that. Yeah, so you're always moving forward.
A couple of small issues that I might have with this. I'm a little worried about a rich get richer mentality in this game.
Yeah. Runaway leader type thing?
Yeah, like just, if you are, like the things across the top over here, these regions you're opening up, if you get to the back of that and to the end of one, you're getting the bonus at the top. You also made it to the end, which is points. And if you did that, that means you're opening up a lot of regions, which is points. And so it's sort of, it feels like if you fall behind, you're going to have a hard time catching up in this game a little bit. Right. I'm not saying this is like, it has a massive, rich get richer cascading issue. I'm just saying I could see that being a little bit of a problem where if you start falling behind someone who is doing well, it feels like they are going to continue to do well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see that too, because there are times you fall so far behind, you're like, I'm not going to get there.
Yeah, and so I have to like pivot. Let me do these big ones, like open up the saloon doors.
And that's hard.
Yeah,
because you have to get to each side of the map for the saloon doors.
Yeah, they're spread out. The wanted poster, they're spread out, so that's tricky.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts you have?
No, I like that. I like the map and I like the movement. And it's the one thing you have to play this a couple times. This is one that you will want to play through because you can either try to move across the map or fill in the regions. And it has one of those things that I like it always seems to end too soon. That is, I think, what shows a good game. When you're ready, I wish it was a bit longer.
Yeah.
And it's got that.
Yeah, and that's something to note because you might actually find it to be too short.
Right.
It's sort of the end game springs up on you.
Yep.
You know. So there we go. That's it then. Some final thoughts on your rating.
My final thoughts is I like it a lot. I like the theme of this. I like the Western style theme. I'm a huge Western Legends fan and all that. And I think this is a niche I haven't seen a nice roll and write in. And I do like the dry erase. I don't know why the dry erase boards, having the 2 boards out there you get to work off of. I really like that. So I'm going to come in maybe a bit high. I'm not sure what yours is, but I'll come in at 8, I think, on this one.
Okay. My score is also an 8. So
is it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm also giving it an 8. I like it quite a bit. This is one that, again, charmed me when I first saw it because I liked the look. I like the roll and write vibe. It's from the same designer who's a new designer on the scene who did a couple of other games that kind of all came out at the same time.
Yep.
And I was intrigued by his designs. He's also the one who did the post-apocalyptic guys jumping off of towers thing, that Tribes of the Wind. That's it. And so I was intrigued by what else this designer had done.
Right.
And I'm not disappointed. This is a smaller game. It's again something we've seen a lot of in this genre. There's been a lot of these games, but this one manages to do something a little different. I think that card-driven idea is a little different. I like what's going on. I'm a little worried about replayability. I'm a little worried about, runaway leader, rich get richer, but it's not stopping me, I think, from playing this. This is going to get played. I'm going to pull this out and have a good time with it.
Yep. And if you like the cascading method, if you like that different the Go Fish thing, it really works.
It works well. It's fun.
Really.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. It's not snooty. This game is not a game that feels snooty.
And it's not take that either. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
So there you go. 2 8s. That's a seal of approval, folks, for Colorado, and that's going to do it for us. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Zee Garcia.
I'm Joey Evans.
Don't stand in front of this guy.
He's seen things.